Hey everybody, this is Mark, and this is my very first disc golf course review. I'm going to be starting with Maple Hill because why not? It has been recently rated for the 2021 year on Udisc as the #1 course in the world. I am very fortunate to live within driving distance of it. I've played it a number of times. So let's analyze Maple Hill as a course. Now, there are very high expectations, right? When it's rated so highly, it's so well respected. It's the site of a major professional tournament. Uh, does it live up to the expectations when you go and play it? And I'm not going to bury the lead here. I do think Maple Hill is the best disc golf course I have played. Now, I haven't played hundreds or thousands of courses. I played a few dozen courses. Maple Hill's definitely the best one. Is it perfect? No, I don't think it's a perfect course design. Although, really, when you're analyzing this kind of thing, how can you say something is perfect? I think it is excellent, and I think it will remain excellent as they improve the course. And even 10, 20 years from now, I think it's still going to be an excellent course. I don't think it will hold on to its #1 ranking in the world as new and better courses get made and as disc golf course design progresses. But we'll talk more about that later. So let's start with the basics. The conditions at Maple Hill, the signage, everything is super great. They have 5 different tees, I guess, although the system they use is this kind of flag system, which is cool. So they have the red, the white, the blue, the new diamond tees, and then the gold, which is what the professional men play. The diamond is what the professional women play. And each tee pad and each basket displays what colors go where. So for instance, if you're playing the reds, you want to find the tee pad that has the sign with the red on it, and you're going towards the basket that has the red flag on it. It's very, very clear, easy to understand. Maple Hill's also improving all the time. So their goals for 2021 are to improve the white setup, which I would agree is the weakest overall. Last year they put in the diamond, or 2 years ago I suppose, they put in the new diamond tees, which is a good improvement. Overall, I think variety is the greatest asset for Maple Hill. Many disc golf courses, because disc golf isn't a super high money sport, are thrown into nooks and crannies in public parks, in schools, that just are where they could fit a course. So there's usually not a ton of variety geographically with many disc golf courses. Maple Hill is on a private property. It's a private course. You do have to pay to play it, although it's only $15 even on the weekends to play, which I think is an absolute steal. And the property itself is this Christmas tree farm, but it has great elevation change. It has great variety. We have open holes. We have very wooded holes. There are water hazards, some ponds and such. And variety is truly the greatest asset to Maple Hill. The front 9 in particular, I would say, is nearly perfect. It may be, I mean, it's certainly the best 9 holes of disc golf I've ever played, and perhaps that I've ever seen. Now, of course, it's hard when you're watching tournaments on television or on YouTube to really understand how good the courses are, but the front 9 is amazing. So hole 1 is this awesome drive over water that bottlenecks into a really tricky approach. It's one of the most lauded holes in the world, and I think rightfully so. Hole 2 is a wonderful, technical, tricky, strategic par 3. I'll be analyzing in more detail later. Hole 3 is this forced line that you have to throw a flex essentially through the woods. Very tough, very difficult to make birdie. 4 is a tricky, touchy downhill shot with water behind. Hole number 5, we get to a tricky forehand or turnover shot over water, short but touchy. Hole 6 is maybe the best hole on the course, a very difficult par 3. Hole number 7 is a tunnel shot. Hole number 8 is the famous hole over water. And then hole number 9 is this amazing kind of par 3.5 where you have to throw over this massive steep hill right in front of the tee before going to a near island green. Those 9 holes are so varied. They challenge every shot in your bag, every disc in your bag. They're largely strategic. And they're just wonderful. The back 9, I think, is a little bit weaker, although hole 18 is fantastic, and a few others. Let's look in more detail now at a couple of the best holes at Maple Hill. So here we have hole 2, and I want to highlight how good this hole is. It's a par 3. I believe this picture is coming from the red tee box, so the shortest attempt at this hole. The diamonds and the gold also go to the pin that is located right here, the basket. And they're further back and to the right, closer to the rock wall on the right there. Now, the reason I think this hole is magnificent from a strategic point of view is because it has a lot of decision making on what kind of, or it forces a lot of decision making on what kind of shot you want to throw. And you see this play out when you watch the MVP Open, where players throw pretty much every possible shot at the hole. So if you're throwing the backhand, which is most people's most comfortable shot, yeah, you could try to throw a tunnel shot straight at the pin, and I have seen people do this successfully. That's a tricky shot. I believe from the golds it's over 400 feet, and that's a tough shot to throw, and if you get it successfully, great. You've got the most straightforward look at the birdie, but it's very difficult. You can throw a slight hyzer or a hyzer flip, but this wall here, anything over that wall is out of bounds. So any hyzer coming in, even from the red tees, which are a bit softer that we're seeing here, this angle, anything hyzer has the potential to hit one of these trees, which I have done a number of times. And if it kicks right, you're suddenly out of bounds and you're looking at a bogey rather than a par. It's one of these holes that if you wanted to just make the par, it's an easy par. You could easily throw like a spike hyzer or a putter down to the bottom here. You'd have maybe 80 to 100 feet looking straight up at the pin, and maybe you have a look at it. But if you want the birdie, you really got to test the hole, which is what makes it very interesting. So that's the backhand. You could throw the forehand, and again, you probably want to flip something up because these trees here are precisely where you want the forehand to go. So the forehand will want to come around here. It'll want to cut in towards the pin, and these trees are just going to eat that up. The forehand, you have to throw a very tricky forehand shot to get there. So what people have done is they've gone for the roller shot because you have all the open over here. You throw a roller, it lands about here. It cuts back to the left, goes through the tunnel, and goes over here. That's the backhand roller for the right-handed player. And that's a tough shot to execute. So no matter, you have all these choices of how to play this hole to the best of your ability, but none of them are the obvious choice to go for. And that's why I think hole 2 is just maybe the most underrated hole in disc golf. You see people on the coverage and such, they appreciate it, but I think it's more than just your typical par 3. Let's move now to, this is a shot of number 11. And this demonstrates one of 3 holes at Maple Hill that I think follow this kind of pattern. And those are holes 1, 11, and 18. And I call them kind of the bottle pattern because all 3 of them are par 4s. And all 3 of them have very open drives and then a very tricky approach shot. They all go to this like bottleneck. And I think it's a really lovely par 4 layout for disc golf, because it gives you a decision at the beginning. You want to drive far, you want to throw a far drive in order to get down there because it's a par 4 and you want a close pitch up. But because there's a bottleneck right here on this hole, or if you go to 18, you have the bottleneck that curves to the right where you have to have something fading to the right through that opening. And similar with hole 1, which I didn't get a picture of for some reason, similar idea. And what that does is it creates this risk-reward thing where The best drive is both long and accurate, so you have an easier shot through that gap. But it's extremely hard to be both very long and very accurate. So it rewards the best play, which is just bombing it in exactly the right shot, or exactly the right spot, rather. But if you're not super confident you can do that, you have the option. Do you try to bomb it as far as possible and risk being cut off? So for instance, if you bomb it and miss over on the left here, maybe you land down in this area here, going towards the basket that's right there. The angle to get through the main tunnel is much more severe the further deep you are on the left side. If you're left and not as far, that's a straighter shot, and it's a more gentle hyzer. Same on the right side. So you have this trade-off. Do I go for distance or do I go for accuracy? How do I trade that off? And that sets up your approach. And I think it's just a lovely bit of design that we see repeated on the starting and the closing hole, and then this hole in the middle, number 11. It's a great way. It's kind of a bit of parallel design where you have hole 1 and 18 being similar ideas, but they're each unique way. Because 1 goes downhill, 18 goes uphill. 1 kind of goes to the left a bit, but has a tunnel similar to 11. 18 goes off to the right for its little island green. Just lovely, lovely bits of design. Now let's look at hole number 6, which may be my favorite hole at Maple Hill. This is the view from the red/white, I believe, or red/blue, I forget. I believe red/white. So we see the red/blue tee box. We see on the left here, this is the basket for the red and white, but I don't think that's nearly as interesting of a hole. It's a hyzer. And if you push too far to water, it's not a bad hole. But the real hole goes here. And so I think this is the perspective. I think this is also the blue tee. The gold tee is further back and right and goes on this side of the trees, which is probably the best way to play the hole, but it's just brutally difficult for me. So I usually play the blue here from this because I feel like I actually have a chance at throwing something that seems successful. Either way, you have, again, decisions. The forehand is kind of the play, I suppose, especially from the gold. From the blue, you have to throw some kind of flip-up thing because of these trees here. So the forehand the decision is not quite as tough. You want to throw a backhand here from this tee. From the golds, the forehand is more viable, except, again, you have this rock wall that is out of bounds. And so any forehand is going to be skipping towards that rock wall for a right-handed player. The backhand, you need to throw some kind of late turning flip up shot, which is extremely difficult to do because if you flip over too much, it's headed straight out of bounds. If you hyzer out really poorly, you can get over in the weeds here, but if you hyzer out down this path here, you can sometimes get a backdoor look putting that way at perhaps a birdie. But again, that's difficult to do. So it is a kind of hole that's kind of a test hole where it's testing your ability to throw a very particular shot. But I think it's a bit more than that. And I think it's a bit more strategic than that because you do have these different options. You can also have options in how far you throw it, because if you land here for a good player, that's a decently makeable jump putt through the tunnel here. That's maybe about 80 feet perhaps through the tunnel. So that's kind of the safe play if you want to try to play for the 3 and give yourself a look at it too. Or you throw far, try to get in this back door. But if you fail at any of those and you're about right here, these pine trees make the putt almost impossible. They're just very thick there, and you have to really land in the right spot, even if you're doing the layup play. So do you go for it all the way? Do you try for the layup? It's just endlessly fascinating to think about what the right play is here, even though to some it looks just like another tunnel shot. But I think, again, like number 2, it's more than that, and it's one of the strengths of this course. Let's look now at what I think some of the weakest holes are, and they come towards the end of the course. We have here number 15, which is probably, I don't know, the next two holes I'm going to look at are probably my least favorite on the course. 15, I think this is from the blue tees. The gold tees are further back and to the left, and the gold tees go to a basket I think is obscured. It's somewhere back here. But it looks similar to this angle to the red here. I enjoy playing the blues, which requires a shot turning to the right, and the basket's back here. Regardless, it's essentially miss the trees. And I think that is a valuable design template in disc golf. It is classic, obviously, that you have a tunnel shot or you have a shot like this where your goal is just miss trees. Miss trees, throw your line, hope you get lucky. That can be good in a course in moderation. It's testing your ability to be accurate. But I think maybe Maple Hill does it one or two too many times. You want just a little bit of that in a course, or else it becomes a bit tedious. And I think of the kind of tunnel or pseudo tunnel shots here, this might be the weakest one, because there's no particular, like, yeah, you could throw a forehand or backhand, but there's not a lot of interesting decision making. It's throw your most comfortable shot. So I don't think it's that great of a hole. It kind of transitions between two much more interesting holes in holes number 14 and 16, which are both great. But then we go from 15, 16's wonderful. That's the hole that Kevin Jones famously aced in a practice round last year. And then we get to 17, which is the hole that Maple Hill has done the most work on and trying to change it up. This is from the white tee position. You can see red up here on the left. The rest of them are further back and to the left. And there's the two baskets. There's one here. There's one over the hill here. And I think it's always been kind of Maple Hill's least favorite hole because they keep tinkering with it, because it kind of plays as, again, a par 3.5, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but they've been trying to make it a proper par 3 or par 4. With the new tee positions, they essentially make a very difficult tunnel gap to make at the very beginning at the tee shot, which I think is a bit clunky design-wise. The problem is that the basket positions are just not very interesting. This is just kind of a little opening. The one on the right, you don't want to run because it's on such of a steep hill. So you see a lot of players, if they make it to the basket, sure, they get the good putt. If they don't, they lay up. And it's not much of a decision there. So I think 17 is a relatively weak hole at Maple Hill. And I'm not sure what they could do, given the property, to transition from 17 to 18. I think perhaps what they could do is make this a par 4 or par 5 and punch through these trees back here and finish off to the left. Because right now there's kind of a little not temporary, but intermediary hole for the red tee positions that runs back here. And I think if they made this one large hole and then did something else with the red layout, I think perhaps that would make the hole more interesting, because then you're trying to do a drive up to the top of this hill and then approach down to the left. For the pros, it would certainly be a par 4. Maybe we'll see them do that someday. But I don't want to harp too much on Maple Hill's weaknesses, because it's such a great course. It's so full of magic. I just want to highlight hole 3. This is the view of hole 3. And again, it's a test type hole where you have to throw a shot that turns this way and then goes up the hill and goes back. So you have to throw a flex line from the right-hand backhand. And I had the opportunity 2 years ago to go watch the MVP Open, and I got to see my favorite player, James Conrad, throw this hole. He is magnificent at this hole. He throws a bomb, like mid-range or putter, I believe. And I got to see him lace it, and it was simply magical. It was absolutely wonderful, and I remember watching him throw that shot for a very, very long time. I loved it. Maple Hill's full of that. The variety, the terrain, the elevation, the water, the trees, the way it is an institution in disc golf, I think can't be beat. However, from a design standpoint, I think it's very, very, very good, but it's not perfect. And I think I'm going to give Maple Hill a 4.5 out of 5 stars, just for the reason that I want this to be a challenge to future course designs. Maple Hill isn't the end point of like what you should aspire to when you're designing a disc golf course. Maple Hill is an excellent course. I think there can be better courses, and there will be better courses in the coming years. As disc golf gets more money into it, as it grows in popularity, I think we'll see better courses than Maple Hill. Maple Hill will always remain near and dear to my heart. It's a blast to play. I love it. I want to see better courses that incorporate more strategic design. Most of the holes at Maple Hill are testing holes. They're testing a very particular shot. And the ones I highlighted as very strategic are amazing, and they're the best holes on the course. I think the best courses are going to be more strategic, more interesting. They will test different types of shots, just like Maple Hill, while at the same time challenging the player in different ways. That's why I'm giving it 4.5 instead of a perfect 5-star score. I want to leave room for those courses that maybe I get to play that I think are better, or that spring up in the next few years that I think are better, because I think it will definitely happen. But if you are in Massachusetts, the New England area, Maple Hill is absolutely a place you should stop at and play around. It's a wonderful time. It's great seeing what the pros are doing at the MVP Open and being amazed at what kind of shots they're throwing. But it's got that variety for all different kinds of skill levels. I even just created a little spreadsheet where I put my favorite way to play Maple Hill, which is a kind of variety of different tees and pins to give me what I think is a very challenging and fun layout, while at the same time not losing many discs, because there are these big water carries. I try to avoid those, but I think playing just the reds by themselves, you lose a lot of the most interesting features of the course. Same with whites. Blues, you have all these water carries that I simply can't do without losing discs. So I'll put that in the description below so you can see my kind of intermediate player water avoidance fun route for Maple Hill if you're ever playing and have a similar skill set to me. And maybe Maple Hill, as they upgrade the whites, will transition more towards some of the ideas I see there. Thanks for watching, though. Feel free to subscribe, to like the video, to comment if you have any ideas or thoughts in response here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Talk to you soon.